So in single file, by the way, in the women's race. And McColgan is just struggling at the moment. Dora is forcing it. If I could check on the mile times, actually, in the last few miles as to what they've been doing. 5:44, 46, trekking back 27. Well, the last two have been even, but that 5:27 must be when Doro is trying to apply the pressure, but certainly McColgan now is wavering slightly. She's got to get through this patch. In most distance races, you find yourself going through a period when you're under pressure. You can just survive that, the relief of it, and the well-being you feel, well, it puts you in the right frame of mind to attack again, but she's got to survive this now.
Look at Dora pushing along. She's run a much more efficient race than either Ondigi or Liz McColgan, and I can sense that Ondigi's even encouraging her to go faster. They go through 20 miles in 1:51, and the last couple of miles 5:40s, which is not excessive pace for these women. Ondigi's run a lot faster than that, and McColgan's working at that. She's got to stay there. This is the crucial point. 20 miles in the marathon, struggling to hang on to third place or to stay with the group. Every yard that they pull away from her will tell against her, and it's beginning to look as though McColgan is struggling too hard. The other two look comfortable, and McColgan's working just to keep that gap, and you don't let gaps like this open at 20 miles in a marathon when you're in control. The writing's on the wall for Liz McColgan.
And it's Dora who's forcing the pace very, very gradually. Looking so strong. Some of the pain of a fast marathon there. Ondigi just happy there to wait for a moment, but now she's testing the German.
You can sense that apart from Ondigi looking at the German, she's very, very interested in what's happening with Liz McColgan behind her. She wants to win this race, but she also wants to beat Liz McColgan. But I tell you what, there's no tougher customer than Liz McColgan, and if anybody can work their way back from that position, well, if anyone can, you might say that Liz McColgan could. But it's looking ominous for Liz McColgan. You wouldn't put yourself in that position if you were in complete control in the marathon. You'd just be behind the two of them. You wouldn't allow the gap to open. There's no reason for it, but Dora is the one that's doing the damage. Dora is the one that's pulling Ondigi away from McColgan, and McColgan is going through a bad patch. She's working at it though, she's not giving up. She's head down, working, glancing up to see what she's got to do, moving herself out to get a better terrain under her feet, and also to swing around the corner. This is the bit of the race she went over the other night, just to see what it was like. She said, I'm not interested in the first 20 miles, it's the last 5 miles that I want to get to know.
Getting a long last few miles for Liz McColgan, because when you start to come apart, the signs are she's beginning to struggle really quite badly. When you really come apart over a distance race, you can lose an awful lot of ground.
That's right, Dave. You know what they say, when it grows all together in the marathon.
Meanwhile, in the mile, we've got the leading wheelchair.
And at his very first attempt, George Van Damme of Belgium looks as though he's going to win this London Marathon, unless Ivan Newman in second place can do anything about it. But we were just debating as they were coming across the cobblestones at Tower Bridge that the gap seemed to be getting a little bit wider, and that could be too much for Ivan Newman to make up. But still, he'll have had a tremendous race.
Yeah, George his stroke is slowing down slightly. He's in a bit of trouble there. If Ivan can just put in a spurt in the last mile, they've reached 25 miles in about 1 hour 40. So it's going to definitely be a course record by at least 5 minutes. But I think he's got it in the back here. He's really struggling. He's looking up. He's going over the road. He's looking good though. 100 miles a week is paying off, and here comes Ivan through the gates. If he can just get his head down on this fast bit and just go for it. But I'm afraid he's just left it that tad too late.
Well, about a minute and 3/4 there that Ivan Newman is going to have to make up. It could be too much, but as we said, he's had a great race, but it's still the Belgian in the lead.
Well, a tremendous race in both the women's event and the men's. Bettiol of Italy, number 9. Beyak of Korea, number 8. Eamon Martin of Great Britain, wearing number 39 in the Basildon vest. And 25 Gadges of Poland. Well, this is a very, very impressive first marathon for Eamon Martin, but they say you hit the wall at about 23 at this pace.
Well, I think his preparation's gone well. He's obviously done as much as he can to get to here, and he'll know. Just relax, Eamon. Stay there as long as you can, and we'll find out when they're approaching the Mall and coming through the Tower Hotel and then approaching the Mall, whether his body can cope when it runs out of energy. There's no question that Eamon's been, over the years, been our top middle distance runner and long distance runner, British record holder for the 10,000 metres, Commonwealth Games champion over 10,000 metres. A couple of decent half marathons he's run, but he doesn't know, his coach doesn't know, and we don't know, but we're going to find out.
Actually, looking back, they're between 18 and 19 miles now. They went through 18 in 1:28.05. The last 3 miles have been a bit slower. They went from 4:45 and 4:46 to 5 minutes, 2 5-minute miles, and then 4:57. But again, almost back to single file, so probably into wind. The women's event, and Liz McColgan is now detached. Dora looks at the watch, as she has done all the way through the race. It's about even pace for her.
You've got to admire the way that Dora's run this race. She was confident enough to let 2 of the world's leading distance runners get 55 seconds ahead of her and then close the gap slowly, gradually and confidently. And at the point when Lisa Ondigi allowed McColgan to catch her, Dora took advantage and closed about 15 to 20 seconds in that particular mile and looks intent on making Lisa Ondigi run all the way to the finish. She's going to work her, she's going to push her, and she's going to make a race of it.
And talk about even pace. Her last mile since she took the lead, 5:48, 5:46, 5:44, 5:45, 5:47 now.
This is going to be the first victory in this 1993 London Marathon. George Van Dam of Belgium, he's going to take this wheelchair race, and really he's done nothing wrong all day. It's all gone right for him.
Yes, absolutely brilliant. He had the courage to take it on in the first few miles, and I think you're looking at the next world record holder. He's a cousin of the more famous Claude Van Damme, doing 100 miles a week training, and after 26 miles, he's just not even missing a stroke. He's just like a pendulum, just going, going, going. He took 12th in Barcelona in the Olympics 8 months ago. He took 4th in Australia 4 months ago. And I think the first major race of the season is going to be a win for George Van Dam. Absolutely brilliant. The time coming up is going to be a course record by at least 5 minutes, if not a little bit more. Absolutely brilliant.
Well, that's certainly a very special performance indeed, and we're going to be looking out for Ivan Newman in second place and possibly David Holding in third. But there's the winner, George Van Dam of Belgium, unofficially a new course record. Tremendous performance. And here's Ivan Newman. His coach is right here next to us, and really, he's had a great day.
I'm absolutely chuffed. Ivan's pushed absolutely brilliantly. He took it on. He didn't work with David and the others. He had the courage to take it on and try and catch George. He's just been that minute behind him all the way there. And unfortunately, he's a little bit heavier guy, and he's found it a little bit difficult on the rough surfaces around the Isle of Dogs. But I've got to give it to Ivan. He won't like me saying this, but he's 40 years old now, and his daughter's probably listening, cursing me. But he's looking good. He's been racing about 5 years. He's got a beautiful stroke. And I think if not this year, then next year is going to be Ivan's year.
He's left some great athletes in his wake, including David Holding, a previous winner of the London, who we think is in third place, and Håkan Eriksson of Sweden, again a London winner. There's David. So England taking second and third, and that's really good news, because in the last couple of years the English competitors have found it tough going, and I have to say the Welsh as well.
Yeah, we certainly have. David had a really good run last year, and it was only Dan Wesley that beat him, but this year he's found it really tough. I think Dave, because he is one of the lighter guys, has found it tough into this headwind, and it's been a very different race from other years where you've had all the guys coming in and just waiting for a sprint. Here's Ivan coming up for the last 200 or 300 metres. He's still looking good. Ivan, just savour this moment. You've done brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
So about 150 metres to go for Ivan Newman, and I think it's fair to say that David Holding will be confirmed in third place. And then we'll be watching out for the women's competitors. We think it's Lily Ungaray of Germany, certainly leading that race, and Rose Hill, possibly surprisingly, not to a coach who's right here, but possibly surprisingly ahead of Tanni Gray. But Ivan Newman finishes in second place. Superb race for him, and David Holding will finish in third of that, I'm sure.
Well, in the women's race, they're approaching St Catherine's Dock, the 22-mile marker. It's still Dora and Ondieki well away now from Liz McColgan. At every possible opportunity, they've been taking drinks. Dehydration, of course, is the biggest problem marathon runners have to overcome. Up to 4 litres of fluid can be lost in really warm weather, but certainly at these speeds as well, fluid is lost very, very quickly indeed. Liz McColgan now a lonely figure, and let's just have a look at the gap if we can actually catch up with the leaders. Oh, it's well, it reinforces the point we made earlier, that when you come apart in a marathon in the closing stages of a distance race, well, you come apart completely. The big problem now for Liz is to survive in third place.
That's right, she's going to have a tough time for the next 22 minutes, 24 minutes actually. But if you look at Dora, she's done everything right. She's tracked her own times. I've watched her all the mile markers and the kilometre markers. She's been pressing her stopwatch and checking it out. Lisa Ondieki behind her decided to get the running going very early and went very quickly in the early stages, but then settled down, allowed McColgan to catch her, and didn't realise that enabled Dora to catch her. She just gone through there, 22 miles, 2 hours, 3 minutes, 5:41. So not only is the pace been constant, David, it's been increasing.
In fact, in the last 6 miles, her pace in front has varied by only 5 to 6 seconds on each mile. Well, we've got fairly competitive men's marathon, to say the least, and Eamon Martin took advantage of a sponge there. Beck is there, and the number 6 in the picture. It's Rico of Mexico. Now, where's he come from? He wasn't really in touch with the leading 4, and suddenly, well, he's come from a long way back. Rico has run inside 2 hours 10. 31. The Mexican is pushing it. He's come from some way back too.
He's been travelling in the last few miles, and you can see them now. You can see Eamon working at it. But Eamon's been convinced that he could run a good marathon if he got his preparation right. He's obviously got his preparation right today because he's running well at this point. But you never know in the marathon.
Actually, they're approaching 21 miles. .5:13 was the last mile, and 5:6 before that. So it's probably how Rico caught them. For the first time, though, the Korean Beck is showing signs of problems. He's looked very relaxed, bouncing along, but in third place now, he's having to work to stay there. But Eamon Martin very, very determined. But he's now going into the unknown with these final few miles the real test.
He probably shouldn't start thinking about it yet because there's a long way to go, but you would fancy aiming a finish, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. At 10,000 metres, he's won so often, actually, with a sprint finish. But you'd hate to think about a sprint finish after 26 miles, wouldn't you? Although it has happened in this London race once or twice. Rico, the Mexican, in black. Eamon Martin there. Bayak and Gadjus of Poland. Looking at that shot, Eamon looks quite organised.
Well, you've got to say that he's got through 20. He's been setting personal bests from 15 miles because he'd never raced that far before. 1:38 there for 20 miles. Good time for Eamon.
Well, in contrast to Ivan Newman in second place, David Holding was the youngest winner in 1989. This time he'll have to be content with the bronze medal, but a superb competitor and a very consistent competitor in London Marathon. So David Holding finishes in third, that's confirmed. Ivan Newman in second. And George Van Damme, Belgian, well, we're still unofficially a new course record. We'll try and tie that up for you later on, but a great performance by the first three.
Well, there's the finish, and still some distance away. The men's event, and Eamon Martin must be feeling very confident to go in front. Well, he's having a look to see how the rest are feeling.
Well, that's a good sign. It's great that Eamon's in relaxed enough frame of mind to check on what's happening behind. And what he sees behind is Betty all moving up to the group. So the group's getting larger. They're moving through. They're timing it right, and the real serious racing. He's got 20 miles under his belt. He's looking good, and I hope he can allow himself the relief over the next couple of miles, because in the last mile or so you would know that Eamon would have a great chance of winning the London Marathon. 34 years of age, he's got many miles on the clock, and all those miles that he's been doing training. He started by winning the English schools mile many years ago, later set a British record for 10,000 metres and won the Commonwealth Games 10,000 metres, and occasionally he's shown that on the big occasions in the summer games the heat is not his best friend, but this isn't the day that the heat's going to play a part. This is a typical English day, and Eamon's a great English runner.
A little bit surprised that he's decided to take it on, and Bettiol has revived. He's gone through his bad patch, survived it and got back. Bettiol, number 9, the Italian. So in this leading group we've got a Briton, an Italian, a Korean, a Mexican and a Pole. .5:15 the last mile. They've slowed quite a bit, which is possibly why Eamon Martin has taken it on. But having said that, I'm not quite sure about the wisdom of that move. For Eamon, it's becoming a journey into the unknown. While he may be feeling strong now, remember what happened last year to Andrea Wallace, who suddenly at 23 miles found her legs had gone completely. And it happens in the men's races, obviously, as well.
Actually, the Korean's been there all the time. Bayek. His teammate, Huang, remember, came from having won significant marathon race when he won the race in Seoul, and then he came to Barcelona to win the Olympic Games. Rico on the inside, he's closed down in the last few miles. And I'm sure that 5:15 mile was A, why we found Eamon Martin in the lead, but B, that's the reason why Bettiol managed to get back to the leading group.
Well, they're now in the women's race, approaching the embankment, going through the city area, and Dora and Ondieki locked together. Dora quite happy to force the pace, Ondieki quite happy to wait. Disappearing from the daylight briefly. Dora, look at her, saving every inch, right alongside the curb.
Oh, in distance running, you learn that at a very early age. Take the shortest route, get as close to the curb as you possibly can. You've got to admire the way she's run this race today. A remarkable show of confidence to be happy to sit 55 seconds off the pace and then come through like this. Part of the reason she's come through is because Lisa Ondigi was slowing the pace down, but Dora is making an effort now. This is an effort by Katrin Dora of Germany to try and win this race. Lisa Ondigi, you feel, is in the driving seat. You feel as though Ondigi has got a little bit left and got enough left to win this race, but Dora is stretching her. And they're coming out of the tunnel, a slight incline as they climb out of the tunnel, and just a yard or two there, Katrin Dora has stolen. And there, McColgan, well, she's certainly not given up. She's working hard. She's finding it difficult, obviously finding it difficult. But let's face it, she's going to run a personal best if she just keeps it going. And you can, in athletics, you can't do much better than that.
We're told from the course that she's about 48 seconds behind Ondigi. Back with the men. Back with Rico of Mexico. Best ever time, 2 hours 28. Eamon Martin in second place. Prefer to see him there than forcing the pace in front. For Eamon, he ought to sit and wait. This is his first marathon. Unless, of course, he feels the others are weakening dramatically, but there's no sign of that. Gadges of Poland in the all-red in third place. Fourth, Bettiol, who survived a bad patch, got back, but in trouble again.
And Rico forcing the pace there, but Eamon grimaced once or twice there, which is the first time we've seen he's shown any sign of strain. But this is the time in the marathon when you do feel the strain. He'll be happy if they can run a couple of more 5:15s, because I think he'll be more. He's obviously going to run a great time, but I think he'd be happy to win a pretty good time and win the race.
Actually, they're approaching a difficult part of the course now for the runners, with cobbles around, and of course they've got to go through St Catherine's Dock and then onto the cobbles, which are carpeted in the Tower of London. But if you've got slight leg problems, if you're getting leg weary, that's an area that's found out many good athletes who've suffered from cramp after going over the cobbles. Oh, Bettiol clearly having problems. And we're down to 3 in front.
Well, that leading group just gone through 22 miles, and they're heading for around about 2 hours 9 minutes, between 2 hours 9 and 2 hours 10. And depending on whether the wind's against them in this stage of the race, that'll affect the time.
Well, number 24, that's a superb shot of Rose Hill, for some time in second place. And just behind her are two of the male competitors. Van der Broek of Belgium, he's number 10. I think that's 17, John van Buren of Holland. But Rose Hill was second for a long, long time behind Lily Ongare of Germany. And we've yet to pick her up. Ongare is number 13. So Rose Hill really putting in an exceptional performance. She just lost on the line to Tanni Grey this year. That's not going to happen this year.
Well, a good look there at the men's race, and it's splitting again. The pole is now the man in trouble. Gadges, who's dropped off the leading two. The leader, Rico of Mexico, followed by Eamon Martin of Great Britain. The leaders going under Tower Bridge. They're just beyond 22 miles on Tower Bridge. The other runners are at 12. Eamon Martin looking if he's working at it. seeking the carpet. She's there to cushion the cobbles, but you can still feel them through that.
Well, I think Eamon's come through the worst. I think he had a little bit of a bad patch for that a mile or so ago, but when he came through the tower, a lot of his friends and supporters were there to cheer him on, and I noticed him give them a big wave and a big smile, which senses he's under less pressure than he thought he would be. He did seek out the carpet, and really, when he starts to think about it, if he can just get to the mile in this position, then he'd have to bet on Eamon Martin. A remarkable debut to the marathon. He's run a great race, whatever happens so far. Whatever he finishes now, he's run extremely well. He's going to run around about 2 hours 10 minutes, and there's a few years since a Briton ran under 2 hours 10 minutes for the marathon. And you've got to say that most of our top marathon runners have come from the ranks of 10,000 meters. And have we found a new one? Has Eamon found a new event that'll give the last few years of his illustrious athletic career a new boost?
Well, it's looking promising, I must say, but he's he may be a bit ambitious. Got about 3.5 miles left, a bit more than that. Looking at Rico and checking on him, but Rico looks ominously comfortable. Well, now for the women's wheelchair race.
Well, it's to be confirmed, but we think there's been a remarkable change in fortune for Lily Ongare of Germany, the pre-event favourite. She's some way behind now, and it's Rose Hill just tucked in behind number 7. That's Johan Enderkens of Belgium, still to finish his men's race. But Rose Hill from Milton Keynes, coached by Chris Hallam, she could be winning this London Marathon.
Well, by the smile on her face and the raise of the hand, I think she's done it absolutely brilliant. Well done, Rose.
A shake of the head there from number 24, the winner, we think, almost certainly confirmed, of the women's marathon. And if this is number 13, which it is, Lily Ongare, she came here with a time of 1 hour 42 to her credit, and she led this race for so long. She's going to finish in second place, we think, but certainly Rose Hill the winner.
Well, now in the women's race, they're just approaching Trafalgar Square. This is Northumberland Avenue. There's a slight climb here, and then they turn left at the top around the edge of Trafalgar Square and through Admiralty Arch into the Mall. And they must be thinking to themselves now, do I try and make a break early? Do I put the pressure on gradually? Do I try and change pace? Seek an advantage? They're working as hard mentally at this stage in a race as they are physically. Nelson's column. They turn left there, the edge of Trafalgar Square, through the arches. Then that long run up the Mall when they pass the 25-mile marker about halfway along the Mall. Now we got two locked together in the women's race and the same in the men's. I'll keep you up to date with the men's while we're watching the women, because they're in the crucial stages now. But in the men's race, Rico and Eamon Martin still locked together. Still battling it out. Around 23 miles. Eamon Martin gritting his teeth there, determined to stay in. And of course, he'd get tremendous encouragement along the embankment where it's packed. But meanwhile, in the Mall, the women's race very, very much alive. Doro's experienced this before. This is Lisa Ondiiki's first ever London Marathon, and what a race she's run.
Well, I think Lisa Ondiiki was happy to let Catherine Dora stretch them along into the wind, moving out slightly now because they're obviously sheltered as they run down the Mall, and you sense that Lisa Martin, or she was, Lisa Ondigi now, at track speed. She ran 60 seconds for 400-metre hurdles when she first started off in athletics. And there's Liz McColgan, who's more than a minute behind the two of them. And if she keeps going, she could run a personal best, but she's going to have to really have a decent last mile and a quarter. Well, you can do it all on the track and you can do it on the roads, but you can only find out about the marathon when you put yourself under pressure in a marathon. 1.5 minutes behind the leading two. It's Catherine Dora, Lisa Ondigi. They've forgotten about times. Both of them have run fast marathons. They're two of the fastest marathon runners of all time. And Liz McColgan there in third place, getting great support from the crowd, and I'm sure that'll be a welcome sound for her. She'll look ahead and she knows just over a mile to go when you get down the mile. And I think that Lisa Ondigi is running a track runner's race by just sheltering behind the leader, and she'll wait now. There's nothing to be gained by going too early. And you've got to admire the way that Liz McColgan has continued to battle through that tough point in the early part of the race and then in the later stages, but she hasn't been finding it comfortable, but she's working at it. There's Lisa Ondigi just checking her watch. She won't be terribly interested in the time, and I'm sure she's just poised to make a last-minute run for it. And there's nothing to do yet.
Well, they're in the last mile, about a mile to go in the race now. And somebody's got to make a decision. Whether to try and break early or whether just to leave it for a sprint finish. To keep you up to date with the men's race, still Eamon Martin and Rico of Mexico locked together. Well, tactically, something might happen. There's got to happen in the next half mile or so.
I just noticed Lisa Ondigi checking her watch there. I've got no idea why. Maybe she was looking to see what time it was, see what time she's going to get home for dinner or whatever. But there was no specific mile marker there. Maybe she'd stopped her watch a little earlier. But this is going to be a race to the finish, and the crowds out and along the mile and along this part of the course, well, every single runner in today's marathon will be appreciative of that. No more than Liz McColgan. No one's going to get a bigger cheer than Liz McColgan, and you've got to admire her tenacity. She stuck at the task.
Unless it happens to be Eamon Martin, who's still alongside the Mexican on the embankment. But they've still got 3 miles left. For the women now, the almost imperceptible climb up Birdcage Walk to Big Ben and to the finish on Westminster Bridge. You can actually see on that other shot that they are climbing. Well, it's all uphill for Liz McColgan, even though the mile is flat. But Dora always appears to be forcing the pace. Dora's always giving the impression that she's trying a little bit to get away, but Ondigi just waiting.
Well, this is a familiar position when you look at a long-distance track race. Someone's leading, forcing the pace, and then someone else following. And McColgan a fair way behind these two, working very hard indeed, but making no impression on them at all. She can't be expected to at this stage, but this is where the race is going to happen. The question is Lisa Ondigi sitting on Catherine Dora and waiting to release a finish? As they approach the finish, Catherine Dora has run a brilliant tactical race. Lisa Ondigi has been here for one purpose, and that purpose has been to try and win the race. So now we're looking at a classic situation. Can the front runner hang on, or is the head waiter, Lisa Ondigi, in the best place?
We've got a similar situation in the men's race. They've got about 3 miles to go, and Eamon Martin and Rico of Mexico still almost arm in arm. But this is crucial now. Dora applying pressure gradually. But if Ondigi survives this climb, she may well fancy her chance in a sprint finish. But Dora is applying pressure. Still climbing slightly ahead, and there goes Dora now, trying to make a break, but Ondigi responded But Dora now has got the 5-6 metres she needed, and the champion of last year looks like becoming the champion once again in 1993. She's run a superbly timed race. Even pace, didn't worry about the break that Ondieki and McColgan made early on, ran her own race, and how right she's been proved. The time much faster than she ran last year, but this a very, very decisive piece of running by one of the most experienced marathon runners in this field. Dora, 32. This her 25th marathon, and it's going to be her 16th victory. Looks untroubled and very, very strong indeed. Powerful contrast with the slighter figure of Lisa Ondieki, who's run so well for second place. The finish now almost in sight. Ondieki looking very, very tired indeed. And accepting, for her it will be second place. But here now, the defending champion comes home to take the London Marathon once again. Katharine Dora of Germany. Her 16th marathon victory. Through she goes, and in second place, a very tired Lisa Ondieki, who perhaps paid for going off too quickly at an even pace early on in the race. In third place will be Liz McColgan. But meanwhile, in the men's race, we've still got the two together. Eamon Martin of Basildon, the British 10,000 metre record holder in his very first marathon, against the Mexican number 6, Rico. He's 31. Well, Rico's got the experience, but Eamon Martin has the encouragement.
He certainly has got the encouragement, and I've noticed he's glanced over his shoulder a couple of times to see if there's going to be a challenge coming from behind. But there's only one challenge for Eamon Martin, and that's the last 1.25 miles, and that's Rico, the Mexican. And if you think about it, Eamon should now begin to settle now. We know how quick Eamon can be, and the longer he can leave it, the better. But in a marathon, well, he's never been here before, but he's been our most outstanding middle distance runner of the years over the last few years, our British record holder for 10,000 metres. What a devastating finish he's shown on the track. Does he have the same finish in the marathon? You'd have to think he probably has.
Don't forget, there's a slight climb at Birdcage Walk when they turn left at the Palace and then left into Birdcage Walk. We saw it in the women's race, and that's where Dora won it, and it's certainly where Rico will apply the pressure. But it's a very big question to ask. Eamon Martin may have a fast finish on the track. Has he got a fast finish at the end of 26 miles, 385 yards? We'll find out in a few minutes. Gudges of Poland in third place, and meanwhile in third place in the women's race, a very tired Liz McColgan. Dora of Germany the winner. Ondieki in second place, and Liz McColgan, Great Britain, in third place, 2:29.36 approximately. I think that's the slowest time she's run for a marathon, but of course this was a tough one. It was a real race. She managed to get away in the others and run her own race. But meanwhile, these two are still together. 25 miles gone.
I think Rico's doing exactly what you said he would do. He'd try and stretch Eamon Martin along the mile, and Eamon's just got to think about hanging on, and hanging on. Tremendous debut performance, and you've got to think that his coach Mel Batty, in consultation with Eamon, they spent time talking with Ron Hill, who was our great marathon runner in the 70s, about the preparation. Eamon ran further than he'd ever run before. He ran the whole winter of excess distance running, distance training, 120 miles a week. It's paid off this far, and at the end of it, if he's still got the track speed that we know he has, then Eamon Martin can have another career at the marathon. What a great boost this would be for Eamon, and what a great performance it would be for British distance running if Eamon Martin could become the first Englishman to win the London Marathon since Charlie Spedding in 1984.
Of course, Steve Jones of Wales set the course record the following year in '85, with Charlie Spedding in second place then. But this is some marathon debut, and all the sweeter for a run on home ground. Well, if the crowd can win a race, or Eamon Martin, we've got the right crowd for it. They are absolutely packed all the way now to the finish. Not a glance at Buckingham Palace, notice. That's for the tourists, that's for the spectators. And now the left turn in a moment. And into Birdcage Walk. Incidentally, as we watch this race, Kwiatkowska of Poland has just finished in 4th place in the women's race. She was 2nd last year. But let's now concentrate on this battle as they turn into this slight climb up the hill. Now, we assume this is where Rico, the more experienced man over the marathon, will apply the pressure. But Eamon Martin, refreshed by the thought now, he's well into the last mile and prepared to ask Rico, can he take it?
Well, we know how quick Eamon is at the finish, but we don't know how quick Rico is, and Eamon nearly got carried away there. Nearly went a bit early and decided, no, I'll bet myself against him in a sprint finish, and I'm going to leave it to a sprint finish. And look, he looked at a point there, he looked about 10 feet tall, Eamon, and you can feel the confidence oozing out of Eamon Martin. And his step up to the marathon has been a glorious one. It's been 4 years since we had a Briton run under 2 hours 10 minutes for the marathon, and it looks to me as though Eamon Martin will certainly do that. But he's not interested in the time. He's not even bothered about the time. He's interested in trying to win the London Marathon. What a dream that would be for Eamon Martin. Every British distance runner dreams about coming along the Mall in the lead of the London Marathon with all those crowds. Well, they haven't had to come a long way to support Eamon. They've only had to come from Basildon. And this is the closest marathon he could get to home, the London Marathon.
Well, this will be something to put in his video scrapbook. Just passing the Lord Taverner's offices, and he's actually run them, sponsored. But can he win it? Rico just trying to force the pace, but Eamon Martin must be refreshed by the crowd and the fact he's so close to home. But can he produce the sort of track finish he produces over 10,000 metres when he's just run 26 miles? And the final 400 metres, and Eamon Martin is just waiting and waiting. They've stopped climbing almost now. Just that rather sharp incline up towards Big Ben, and then they cross Westminster Bridge to the finish. At what point does one of them make the effort? Rico seems to be applying pressure slowly. Gadgets of Poland in 3rd place, certain to finish there. And Eamon Martin must gather himself now. Both his mental and his physical resources. And actually, looking at Rico, he looks the more composed of the two, but Eamon Martin, in front of the home crowd, must find a finish now. It's going to be desperately, desperately close, and there he goes, trying to go with the sort of track finish we've seen so many times, and Rico's trying to go with him. Rico's tucked in the back, and Eamon Martin aiming for home, being waved into the winner's finishing funnel, and Eamon Martin, his first ever marathon from Basildon, comes home to win the 1993 race. The winning time, 2 hours, 10 minutes, 49 seconds approximately. A brilliant run. Rico of Mexico in second place. The first Briton to win since Steve Jones in '85. In third place now is the Pole, Yagis. He's run way inside his best ever time. But what a moment for Eamon Martin. A moment, it's been 26 miles, 385 yards of hard work. But that moment of the finish, well, very few can experience that. Here's the man in fourth place, Bettiol of Italy, who looks such a threat for such a long time. But the last few miles are the real test. When you get beyond 20, it's a struggle not just against the opposition, but a battle with yourself. So Bettiol of Italy just outside the medals. He finishes in fourth place. And certainly they've split the field in the last 3-4 miles. Eamon Martin greets them. He's been out there on the road with them a long time. And Mel Batty, his coach, will be so pleased. And so too his colleagues at the Ford Motor Company. He's a working athlete. Number 32, Borkley of Norway. Number 26 is Dave Buzzer, the second Brit. Dave Buzzer from Cornwall. Borkley finishes fifth. Dave Buzzer in sixth place. 2:12 his time. Probably a personal best. Dirk of Korea in seventh place. Salah of Djibouti in eighth place. Another big gap. And Eamon Martin can afford to stand there and greet them as they come through the finish with a big smile on his face.
Well, what a performance by Eamon Martin. And you sense when he came past Buckingham Palace, he waved to a few of his friends. There's number 64 finishing, Torres of Spain. But you could sense that Eamon, whatever he was going to do in the last mile, he was not going to lose the London Marathon. You don't run 26 miles and then throw it away in the last couple of hundred yards. And there's Steve Brace, another Briton, finishing 2 hours 13. He'll run under 2:14. 10th place there, Steve Brace. But you've got to say, Britain's record holder for 10,000 metres stepping up successfully to the marathon, and a great boost today for British distance running. And I wonder whether Eamon will accept the position of running the World Championships in the marathon. He told me yesterday that he'd want to run the 10,000 metres in the World Championships, but I wonder if his performance today would change that view.
Well, we believe Torres has finished in 11th place, and Steve Brace about 12th. One of Britain's most consistent marathon runners. Comes from Bridgend. It's hard, isn't it? The next finisher, Macaulay of Lesotho.
Well, I think the story of the day from Britain's distance running point of view is Britain's female record holder for the 10,000 metres, Liz McColgan, will be bitterly disappointed, not only finishing third, but running 2 hours 29 for the marathon. And then Britain's male 10,000 metre record holder, Eamon Martin, stepping up in his debut at the age of 34 and finding a new career at the marathon. A glorious victory by Eamon Martin. Disappointment for Liz McColgan, and just shows you athletics, distance running particularly, nothing is predictable.
Well, we've seen the race for international glory and also for very big prize money indeed, but here they're running for pride.
Well, Chris Brasher certainly had his dream come true in 1981 when the first ever London Marathon started. He believed then that the human race could be one joyous family, working and laughing together and achieving the impossible. Well, whatever else is happening in the world today, that's certainly going to be true today. Right in the heart of Docklands at City Pride, once fast becoming a desolate wilderness, now a huge complex of business property, over 1 million square feet of it. And these runners are still going to be running through here in a couple of hours' time. So these runners still to negotiate the Isle of Dogs Canary Wharf, Tower Bridge, Victoria, Trafalgar Square, and then of course on to Westminster Bridge, when those aching feet will finally give way to a bit of help and assistance from friends and a medal round the neck for the finishers.
Well, very quickly, we're going to have a word with the winner, Eamon Martin, talking to Hazel Irvine.
Eamon, first marathon and you're a winner. Congratulations. How does that feel?
Well, it feels fantastic. I mean, that's what I wanted, and I knew it was going to be a long, hard grind, and to come out on top was all I really wanted. I wasn't worried about times or anything. In fact, I mean, because I was so inexperienced at running marathon, I was very concerned about pushing it on the last part of the race, and I actually felt very comfortable for the last 4 or 5 miles, but I could see it was between me and the other guy, and I knew that when it comes to a dash for the finish, there's no one in the world who could probably beat me, although I was a bit concerned whether I could actually pick my legs up and sprint at the end of a marathon.
Indeed, after 12 miles, it was all a little bit unknown for you. Were you worried about how you'd react?
Well, yeah, that was always a concern, but I mean, I came in and I thought, I'll try and win the race. If I don't win the race, there's a great chance that you know, I didn't want to drop out, but I just thought that running, you know, having the guts, if you like, or the courage to go with the pace might cause me problems beyond 20 miles, and I might have to, I was thinking, well, I'll have to drop out, but I wanted to go for the win, and you know, and have that courage to go for it, and that's what I did from the word go.
It was a courageous win. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great.
Well, a tremendous run by Eamon Martin, his first ever marathon, and he won in 2 hours, 10 minutes, 48 seconds. That is an unofficial time. In second place was Rico of Mexico, and third, Gadjus of Poland. The women's race won by Catherine Dora, approximately 2 hours, 27 minutes and 9 seconds, faster than her winning time last year. Lisa Ondieki of Australia in second place, and in third place, Liz McColgan of Great Britain. Well, they'll be coming in for hours yet. Good club runners, looking for personal best time, who spent hours and hours out on the road in recent weeks and months, and indeed some of them for years. And we'll be able to see a lot of those finishing when we come back in our next transmission. So apart from the international race, which we covered
As the marathon continues in London, we go live to Scarborough, where Pam Rhodes joins an assortment of musicians, choirs and dancers for a special morning worship.